Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears are heading to New England to take on the Mac Jones-led New England Patriots as 8.5-point dogs with a 40.5-point over/under. This is DraftKings Showdown coverage brought to you by SharpFootballAnalysis.com. I'm your host, Adam Wilde. So we're going to have a gross game, right? One of those defensive battles is running back battles, but that's kind of reflected in the price. So with that being said, I mean, you can kind of get a little bit away from that in a slate that's going to be, the very popular play. Everyone's going to want to go with 2 to 3 running backs in their lineups, one quarterback. So we could try to find ways to fit in 2 quarterbacks here and there, fit in multiple wide receivers here and there on slates where that's actually going to be different. So that's kind of nice. Usually slates, the game projects to be, kind of decent. So we are stacking offenses and trying to get to those. Well, can I fit 2 running backs in this lineup? Can I fit a kicker and a defense in that lineup? So it's going to be the opposite this week. We're going to try to see if we can fit in some actual offensive production and just hope that this game somehow goes over. Mac Jones does have a 300-yard game in him. Bailey Zappi had a 300-yard game last week. So just because the Patriots are 6th from last in the NFL in rushing rate or passing rate does not mean that we will not get any passing efficiency from them. All that being said, that we've got Ramondre Stevenson at the top of the list in terms of prices. We actually have 2 running backs at the top of the list in terms of prices over both of the starting quarterbacks. So Ramondre Stevenson at 10,800 is interesting because Damian Harris will be back. So in the 4 games that they were healthy together, Ramondre Stevenson was on the lower half of the 50% workload. Now we've got Damian Harris coming back after Ramondre Stevenson have 2 really blow up spots. And so we're expecting Ramondre Stevenson to take over as the top half of the 50%, but we're still going to get a lot of work from Damian Harris. So, like I just said, the Patriots are rushing at the 6th highest rate in the league. There should be enough work for both Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. Damian Harris is the cheaper of the 2, but also Damian Harris probably isn't going to catch many passes, and Stevenson has 5 target upside. So Stevenson's justified it as at his price and one of the best plays of the slate, considering New England are 8.5-point favorites at home. So Ramondre Stevenson's my favorite captain, but he's going to be extremely chalky, so you're going to have to get unique from there. And as we'll talk about in a moment, we're going to hope for a receiving touchdown from Mac Jones to kind of blend everything all together for us. David Montgomery at 10,600. That's way more expensive than I think that David Montgomery's worth. Given his usage, he's going to get around 15 carries. Not really enough to get there. He could have anywhere from 1 to 5 targets. He's had 1, 2, 3, and 4 targets throughout the year. So it's really going to be difficult to predict his passing game usage when he's down 8.5. If I had to guess, this hasn't been an indication as of this season, but if I had to guess, I'm going to expect Khalil Herbert to get more usage in the passing game, but we really just don't know. It's been inconsistent for both players. Khalil Herbert has had 2 games where he got the start and he was a complete workhorse, but then when David Montgomery is in with Khalil Herbert, that's not the case. So at 10,600 against a tough defense, David Montgomery is just not going to be a priority for me. He will be still in my player pool, but he's not somebody that I'm going to be really building my lineups around. So it's going to put us on both quarterbacks. Justin Fields is going to be maybe a little less owned than he really should be, given because he passes so little. The Chicago offense passes at the lowest rate in the NFL by a lot. So Justin Fields actually has not completed more than 15 passes in a game so far this season, which is just completely egregious, but he is getting there with his legs. He's averaging around 10 carries a game, getting like 80 yards, got 80 and some change last week. So that's adding 8 points to whatever he puts out in a game that's got 40.5-point over under. So Justin Fields can definitely still get there. And if you can find in the heap that is the Chicago Bears receiving core, the one that he connects with for a touchdown, if he does, then you're going to be in great shape. So I'm going to be looking to try to fit Justin Fields and one of his receivers in my lineups and just cross my fingers that that's the receiver he connects with for a touchdown. brings us to Mac Jones. Mac Jones is going to be one of my favorite plays of the entire slate. We saw Bailey Zappi, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. This offense still has that in it. We do have Damian Harris back, so maybe they rush a little bit less. But Mac Jones was very predictable, as I said in the article on sharpfootballanalysis.com. He's going to complete like 20 passes every single game. So he's going to attempt 30. He's going to complete 20. So we just have to figure out who those targets are going to go to, regardless of if Damian Harris is in or not. It's going to be very difficult to pick who it goes to because there's like 5 viable options for the New England Patriots, but we'll get to that in a moment. Mac Jones is just one of my favorite because Ramondre Stevenson and potentially Damon Harris could have more ownership than Mac Jones, and that's just that's not what we're projecting, but that could certainly happen. The way that this the grossness of this game is going to get steamed up. Talked a lot about Damian Harris. He's going to be slightly under 50% of the snaps, but he's not going to catch any passes at 8,400. Usually that's a lot, but as 8.5 point favorites, Damian Harris will still get 10 to 15 touches. Jacoby Myers is my favorite at 8K, though. I much prefer Jacoby Myers than Damian Harris. He has been Mac Jones' favorite receiver. So Mac Jones coming back, Jacoby Myers coming back healthy. People aren't going to be playing that game script, but they've got to get ahead somehow. So I expect Jacoby Myers to get there in PPR. You see right there, he's averaging 16.5 points a game. That's with only 1 touchdown. So, and another thing he's demonstrated this year is that he can get you close to the bonus, which is not something that he's done very consistently, but he's gotten to the 100-yard bonus once this year, and he's almost got to the 100-yard bonus once this year, and he's only played in 4 games. So I expect Jacoby Myers to be a little bit forgotten about as he didn't play recently, and because these running backs are going to be so popular. So Jacoby Myers is probably my favorite like pivot play of the slate. Darnell Mooney at 7,400 is tough to get to. He's got one of the highest target shares in the league, at least like top 12, but that's of a 15 attempt target tree, right? So it's not very impressive that he's leading his team in targets when they're only attempting 20, 15, 16 passes. So Darnell Mooney is somebody who's obviously incredibly boom bust, could hit the bonus for sure, but we would need some success from Justin Fields. Now, as 8.5 point dogs, you would expect Chicago to be passing often. It's just that they have not given any indication that they care whether they're up, down, left, right, if they're going to be running or not. They're going to run the football. And that leaves Mooney out with a very volatile projection, something that maybe you could get out of Dante Pettis. So Darnell Mooney is in a weird spot where you kind of want to play him to be contrarian and you want to get pieces of the Chicago passing offense because no one's going to do that. But then you're also in a position where you probably shouldn't do that. So I know I did say on the last Bears slate, we will not get burned by the Bears passing offense. And I do believe that 2 receivers from the Bears got into the optimal. I think that Mooney and Pettis, if I recall correctly, were both in the optimal lineup. So it can happen, especially on these low total games. You get in a situation where if you get a 70-yard catch, you're probably in the optimal lineup. So that's why Mooney still finds himself as a valuable asset in our player pool. Devontae Parker at 7,000. We'll bring Thornton into the conversation at the same time as well. They're pretty much the same play. Without Jacoby Myers, they would both be quite interesting. Parker has had a 156-yard game without Jacoby Myers this year, but he has also had 4 games, I believe, under 2 targets, 2 or less targets. 1 game with 10 targets and 1 with, I think, 7. And if I recall correctly, I'm not positive at least one of them was without Jacoby Myers, but it might have been 2 without Jacoby Myers where he had more than 2 targets. So it seems like with Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker is just not getting the looks that he needs to pay off 7,000. Thornton was preemptively priced up by DraftKings because he is trending in the right direction as a second-round rookie. 5 targets 2 weeks ago, or 3 targets 2 weeks ago, 5 targets last week, 36 yards and a touchdown last week. Fine. In a game with this total, that would get there. 3 targets, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Probably going to land in the optimal lineup, even at 6,600. Without a touchdown, though, he's probably not paying that off, especially when you could get to Jacoby Myers with just a couple thousand more. You're probably not landing on Thornton. But between Barker and Thornton, Thornton is my preferred option, and I'm hoping Thornton comes in less owned. Especially if you want to do pair two with Mac and put Mac at captain. You could definitely look to Jacoby and Thornton, Jacoby and Bourne. Bourne is another good option. Aguilar will jump down a little bit. He's the next wide receiver. He's way too expensive given his role, but he's going to be extremely under. And he, as they say in play, is playing Mecole Hardman. So if you're ever playing those showdown slates with the Chiefs and you have to close your eyes and plug your nose when you play Mecole Hardman, and then he comes in at 20% ownership, and that's why he's such a good play. And then he has the opportunity to do things like he did today, where he scores 3 touchdowns. Aguilar doesn't have a 3-touchdown ceiling, nor did I believe that Mecole Hardman did. But Nelson Aguilar is just going to go completely overlooked at 5,800, and he's going to see the field. I mean, he'll probably get somewhere between 40 and 50% of the snaps if all these receivers are active. Bourne, Aguilar, Thornton, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker. We'll see 3 guys vying for somewhere around 40 to 50% of the snaps, and Nelson will be one of them. Defense, obviously, fantastic play. Play the Patriots defense. Khalil Herbert, like I said, if they get into pass, I feel like they're going to want to use Khalil Herbert more often in the passing role. There's no clear indicator this season that that's the case. David Montgomery's still catching passes here and there too, but it just feels like at 5,400, he's going to get utilized more than 50% the amount that David Montgomery is utilized, which means 5,400 is fair. Dante Pettis is another, he's Darnell Mooney light is kind of what I was getting at earlier. You could probably get the same production out of Pettis as Mooney. Like Mooney's clearly the much better player, probably has the higher ceiling or should in his range of outcomes. But Dante Pettis has had 2 touchdowns. I think 2 of 4 of Justin Fields' targets have been, or touchdowns have been to Dante Pettis, and one of them was for 40 yards. I forget what the second one was for, but I mean, Dante Pettis and Equanimeous St. Brown are pretty much sharing the second wide receiver role, but Equanimeous St. Brown is doing nothing, like absolutely nothing. He's being targeted maybe twice a game, catching maybe a pass a game, and he's 4,600. So you don't have to think for a second about playing St. Brown. I mean, if he catches a touchdown, okay. But he's not even in consideration for the player pool. So that just leaves Dante Pettis. And Pettis had 7 targets last week. So at 5,200, I'll just rather take the discount if I'm doing a 4x2 with the Patriots and I just want to play Fields and 1 pass catcher. It's going to be either Pettis or Komet probably. Mooney is more, if I'm not going to play Fields, I might play Mooney and just hope I can get all of Fields' passing production in Darnell Mooney. So Cole Kmet and Hunter Henry are pretty much the exact same play. Just depends on what team that you're trying to stack. So we want to stack the Patriots. So I'm just going to land on Hunter Henry, but they're going to get 4 targets. They're going to have a very low ADOT, and one of them might fall into the end zone. So depends what team you're going to stack. If you want one player to stack with Fields, I'm probably not picking Cole Kmet unless he gets a touchdown. He doesn't have 100-yard upside. So do I really want to pair Cole Kmet with Fields when I could pair Dante Pettis with Fields? No, not really. I'd rather pair Pettis with Fields and look for 3 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Cole Kmet's not giving you 3 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. So he could be played as a one-off if you want to do like a 5x1 with the Patriots. But Cole Kmet's not worth stacking with just Justin Fields. Hunter Henry's fine to play with the Mac Jones stacks we talked about. Kendrick Bourne, I guess I'll talk about 2 more players. Kendrick Bourne, 3,000, has been somebody that Mac Jones has been on the same page with in the past. He's been beat up a lot this year, so he hasn't got to play much. But Kendrick Bourne is one of the more reliable receivers on the team and someone who gets a lot of respect, but just has not put it together so far this season. So I do expect Kendrick Bourne to connect with Mac Jones at least once or twice in this game as they come back from injury together. But 3K is a little rich. We would like to see Kendrick Bourne around the same price as Velus Jones, but At 3,000, he's going to go completely under owned. So he's definitely worth a shot in your large field tournaments. Even if you wanted to do something like Ramondre Stevenson at captain, then Damian Harris, Kendrick Bourne, and Mac Jones, that works totally fine because you pair Mac Jones with a receiver. You hope Ramondre Stevenson catches a touchdown. You pair Mac Jones with a receiver, but you don't spend a lot to pair him with a receiver. So you get in a situation where, hey, if Mac Jones connects with Ramondre Stevenson and Kendrick Bourne for a touchdown, I mean, you're probably taking the tournament down. Felix Jones is the last one. He's just an interesting to mention in these games. You have to think about it a lot with Devin Duvernay when it's only a 40-point total and you have a player like Velus Jones who should be trending up anyways. He's also the kick returner, so you could get that very, very, very rare double dip at kick returner and Bears DST. Bears DST is a great play too in this game. They're probably going to go way under owned, even though it's a 40-point total, because it's just going to be a gross game and people are going to be more comfortable with the Patriots. So you could definitely go with your Velus Jones and Bears stacks and even play Mac if you want. Who cares? You quarterbacks are getting there with defenses all the time. Andy Dalton got there last week at captain. With the defense in the flex, so with the opposing defense in the flex, it can happen. So don't be afraid to play the Bears if you're stacking the Patriots in a 40-point over under. If the over under was higher and we're expecting 5 touchdowns out of the Patriots, then it's a little bit different of a story, obviously. But it is always fun when you get to see people screenshotting their double dip connection on the DST whenever there's a return touchdown. So that's the only reason Velus Jones gets considered. Let's just keep him to the 150 max, 100,000 person player pool. Let's put one lineup together here. I actually really like Jacoby Myers at captain this week with, like I said, so many people focused the around the running backs in this game. We're going to do Stevenson. We're going to do Mac Jones. We're going to do probably Hunter Henry and see if we can get Khalil Herbert and see what we're left with. Okay, so we've got Jacoby Myers at captain, Ramondre Stevenson, Mac Jones, Hunter Henry, Khalil Herbert, and that leaves us with 6,700. So you could fit Tyquan Thornton, and that would be fine. You could fit Nelson Aguilar. That would be fine. I prefer to go with the Patriots here, so I'm going to go Patriots. But it's going to be Jacoby Myers, a captain, Ramondre Stevenson, Mac Jones, Hunter Henry, Khalil Herbert, and the Patriots, and leaving a respectable 1,100 on the table. But just be unique as possible. If you've got some 5x1s you like, go with them in this slate. If you can leave 2,000 on the table and still feel okay with it, leave it on this slate. Just remember in these slates, you're going to love your kickers, you're going to love your defense, but so is everybody else. So you're just going to have to get unique. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you all so much for coming out. This has been Showdown Coverage brought to you by sharpfootballanalysis.com. I'm your host, Adam Wilde, and I will catch y'all next week. Peace.